with my dad, Sean, and grandfather, Rick, we welcome you to the first episode of the Military Minute.
This show is dedicated to telling veterans stories and experiences.
And traveling to locations that honor their courage, and in the hopes of educating future generations.
Today we are proud to partner here in Chico, California at the Chico Air Museum.
Let's head on in. Hey Norm, I'm Sean.
Hi Sean, I'm Norm.
Good
nice
to meet you. Yeah, it's my son Nathan.
Hi
Hello,
Nate.
Norm.
Nice to meet you.
It's my dad Rick.
Hi Rick.
Hey, Norm.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet
Welcome
you.
to the Chico Air Museum.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having us.
You're welcome. I'd like to give you guys a quick tour if you have time.
Absolutely.
Okay, well let's walk this way towards the F-15.
Great.
So, the Chico Air Museum was started in 2004,
Okay.
and we're a nonprofit air museum, and we're dedicated to getting history out to people, especially the history of aircraft and space. And we also, our goal is to honor the men and the women that participated and designed the aircraft, flew the aircraft, and that's what we're all about. We're open every Thursday through Sunday, and we're free to the public.
Awesome. Well, show us some of your exhibits,
Sure.
please.
So this is kind of the crown jewel. This is an F-15C. We brought it back from Langley, Virginia. We had to ship it back by truck, 10 states. Longest trip a F-15's ever taken by truck.
Wow.
But it's a beautiful aircraft, and it honors the men and women of the Air Force.
Absolutely.
This is one of our newest exhibits. This is a Hiller Hornet. It's a ramjet powered helicopter.
Wow.
So think about the engineering that went on to get fuel to those ramjets. You had to have fuel tanks, the fuel lines come up through the rotor assembly and then out the blades to the ramjets. So it's a very unique aircraft.
Yeah.
And this is a Culver Cadet, which is World War II vintage, actually a retractable aircraft that has leading edge slats to help with slow flight. And then it also has kind of a more streamlined appearance. And what happened to a lot of the Culver Cadets is they were turned into drones after World War II,
okay.
and they practiced using them for target practice.
Okay.
And then this is a more modern aircraft. This is a Pitts Model 12. So it's kind of the evolution of aerobatic aircraft, and the whole Pitts line of aircraft. This is the biggest and the baddest of the aerobatic aircraft. It's got a big radial motor in it. It's basically one of the strongest of the Pitt biplanes, and it's often used in aerobatic contests.
Wow.
I'll take you into the space room. So we've created a mock-up for the space station. It's still in progress. But if you look, Nate, at that, it's like you're in the cupola, that they actually have a cupola station at the space station where you can look out into space or at the Earth. And our volunteers have put this together so it's pretty realistic as to what you might see if you're really in space. And you kind of get the feel for what it would be like to be on the space station and live there for months at a time. Space is really the evolution of aviation, getting off the Earth and farther away.
Yeah.
And we value kind of that tie between aviation and space. And so some of our exhibits in the space room show the evolution of early rocketry all the way to the manned space program.
Awesome.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. It's fun.
How many tours of school kids do you give per year?
We probably give maybe 70 to 80.
Wow.
We're a pretty popular location, not just for school kids, but for senior groups, veterans groups, clubs. We're kind of the focal point for this region for aviation and space. And people like to come here because they can bring their relatives, their friends, spend half a day and really see some unique stuff.
And as the director of the museum, how many staff do you have volunteer docents?
We have about 40 volunteers. They're divided into docents. There might be 25 docents, and then we have a whole restoration team that restores aircraft. We have a librarian for the library that we have. We have a facilities manager. We have an outdoor display coordinator. We have a lot of different jobs, and we're always looking for new volunteers for people too.
That's fantastic, though. That's a great crew.
We have the most awesome group of individuals here that dedicate their time and effort to us, and I couldn't be more proud of them.
Absolutely.
This is a SPAD from World War I.
Wow.
It's actually a replica. It took 12,000 hours to build. But it's authentic in every detail. And so if you look from this early fighter aircraft to that more modern fighter aircraft, you can really see the evolution of flight and what's going on. So we love to try to, especially with the young people, show them how things have changed through time, and then look at the space room and say, okay, where are we going after this? Yeah, it's pretty cool.
That's fantastic.
I'll take you into the display area. So for our museum, and for Chico specifically, Thaddeus Kearns was our first aviator. He was a high school kid who built 3 airplanes from about 1911 to 1913. And he has 2 patents, and he was amazing because he would take his planes to San Francisco and even on the train back to the Midwest and do flying displays, which were really popular back then. So this is a model of his aircraft. This is a display that shows Thaddeus. Unfortunately, aviators at that time did not have a long lifespan.
Yeah.
And so Thaddeus passed away in an airplane crash when he was 19. But amazing, amazing guy. So we call him Thaddeus Kearns, Chico's first aviator.
Nice.
The other thing Chico had that was first was the very first skyjacking that occurred in the United States was out of Chico. DC-3 was skyjacked by Bruce McCrae, who wanted to get back to Arkansas. He decided, I have to get back to Arkansas. He had a revolver. He pulled the gun on the pilot and said, we're getting out of here. And the pilot and the co-pilot fought him off, and actually one of them was shot. But this is kind of part of Chico's history, is the very first skyjacking. In honoring our military vets, we try to show some of the local people. This is Bob Campbell, who actually is from Durham, and he was part of a torpedo bomber flight, and he was in the Battle of Midway, and he was awarded the Navy Cross for his actions that day.
Wow.
So he lived to be 101 and passed away, and this is all dedicated to him and his Navy career, which is just incredible.
Yeah.
Our airport is an air attack base for CAL FIRE and for the Department of Forestry. So we have a whole room that's dedicated to aerial firefighting, including a smoke jumper outfit, and then a lot of photos in this rack that show early firefighting aircraft, the whole evolution. You know, we started with biplanes, worked into World War II aircraft as they came home, evolved those into specially modified World War II aircraft and Korean War aircraft, and now we have jets. And so we try to capture that evolution again, that movement from older to younger to more modern, more technological, and how we fight fires with the new helicopters and the new jets. It's changed a lot. It's still fighting a battle. You know, fighting fires is still a battle. And in California, it's such an important battle because of the big fires that we have. But this room is dedicated to that so that we can show people just what are those people doing when they're flying over,
Right.
and what an important contribution they make to all of us.
It's a Ford, even though it says Willys.
Okay. We also have some historical military Jeeps and other paraphernalia from World War II. We won't go into whether the Willies were. This room is dedicated to the Chico Army Airfield. During World War II, in 1942, right after Pearl Harbor, that's when this base was created. And at one time, there were 5,000 people that lived at the airport on the base. It was a basic training flying base that had BT-13s. Okay, so BT-13s were the aircraft that were here, and there were hundreds of BT-13s, as you can see, right through there. And they used to fly all over Northern California doing training. And after they flew and qualified in BT-13s, then they moved up either into SNJs or T-6s or that level of aircraft. It's incredible rich history, and this hangar itself was one of those hangars. It was a maintenance hangar for BT-13s, and that's why, again, we're honoring the World War II veterans like my father-in-law. We're honoring everyone who participated and helped in that war effort.
Well, Norm, thank you so much for taking on this tour. How can people get involved or help you with any donations?
Sure. So we have a website. It's www.chicoairmuseum.org. We're all donation funded. We don't receive any help from anybody else. And they're welcome to go to our website and take a look at that. We also have a Facebook page, but we encourage everyone to visit, again, Thursday through Sunday. We're open free to the public, and we're just very happy and honored that you guys would visit us today.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Great to meet you.
Thank you, Nate. Thank you.
Thank you, Norm.
Appreciate it very much.
The Military Minute is dedicated to capturing stories of veterans. And today we're sitting down interviewing my father, Rick Farley, for his service over a 30-year career in the Army, active duty, and Army National Guard here in California. What year did you enter service?
I entered service on January 19th of 1970. My parents' anniversary was January 18th, so they weren't very thrilled that I was joining the Army during the Vietnam War, especially right after their anniversary. I was always fascinated by helicopters, so I enlisted to be a Huey door gunner crew chief and went through Army induction processing in Oakland, and then was put on a bus and went straight to Fort Ord, California, and did my basic training at Fort Ord, and then went straight from there to Fort Rucker, Alabama for helicopter crew chief training. And basic training was approximately 3 months, and so was the advanced training at Fort Rucker.
So once you completed your basic and your advanced training, where did you go?
I went straight to Vietnam. I was gone for 1.5 years before I had any leave. I left for Vietnam in June of 1970 and did one tour in Vietnam, returning in June or July of 1971. But I didn't end up spending much time on Hueys. Most of my tour was doing maintenance and inspections on Cobra gunships. Our unit was the first all-Cobra unit in Vietnam, and we had approximately 20 Cobras. And I was the night maintenance inspector and went on all the test flights and got a lot of time in the front seat of a Cobra doing that. While I was there, the U.S. Army supported the Army of Vietnam in the incursion into Laos, trying to stop the supplies from coming down the Ho Chi Minh Trail. So they sent us, we were stationed primarily in the Mekong Delta, but then were sent up to Da Nang. They reopened Khe Sanh, and we worked out of Da Nang and Khe Sanh supporting the ARVN invasion into Laos in the spring of '71.
Then what was your time like on the LST?
The LST was interesting. I didn't know anything about LSTs till an LST is a landing ship tank. They were built for World War II. They landed in Normandy and any other places they have a very shallow draft so they can get in and come right up to the beach. And that's what they did for us in Saigon or Da Nang. And we loaded all of our equipment and vehicles, none of the aircraft, but all our spare parts, tools, and everything on the LST, and then sailed down the coast of Vietnam. But it was so hot, we could not sleep below deck. It was just miserably hot. So we laid our sleeping bags out on the steel deck and just stayed above deck. But it had a merchant marine crew of, I believe they were Japanese. It was part of the drawdown. That counted as reducing the number of American service members over there by hiring foreign merchant marines. And they got to eat steak and salad, great food. We were eating sea rations the whole week we were on that ship. And then at night, once we went up the Saigon River, we anchored at night, the Mekong River, and they had little depth charges going off underneath the water on the side of the ships to keep zappers from coming up and placing explosives on the side of the LST. So then we made our way up near Canto and offloaded everything and went back to doing our normal operations in the Mekong Delta, supporting both the ARVNs and American forces in the Mekong Delta. Our unit was 235th Assault Helicopter Company, and our unit name was Delta Devils.
Tell us a little bit about your time in the Guard. You were activated for the Rodney King riots, but you never went further than Sacramento.
Never went further than Stockton. I was drilling at Stockton. That was back when we had the Cobra unit. But we trained to go down to Los Angeles, but then there started to be some small riots in Stockton and Sacramento. Well, they decided to keep us up north because so many of the Highway Patrol, the other police units, the other Guard units, everybody had gone to LA, and they were a little nervous that they didn't have the resources up north. So we stayed up north, but we didn't actually go out on the streets because it wound down before we went out there. But we stayed at the Stockton airport and camped out and trained now it's not a normal aviation mission is to do riot control. So we had to do some infantry style training to be ready to deploy on that mission. Typically our missions were flyers, floods, and earthquakes.
And you got quite a bit of flight time with fires in the early 90s.
Yes, and that's one of the reasons the state did away with a Cobra attack unit. There's just no state mission for that. And California needs general support aviation battalions with lift aircraft. Back then it was primarily Hueys and Blackhawks. And so that we transitioned back to being a lift battalion, the 1st to the 140th, with both Hueys and Blackhawks. We did a lot of missions for fires, floods, earthquakes. A lot of times too, because our unit was at the former Mather Air Force Base and the State National Guard Center, the command center is there on Bradshaw in Sacramento. We did a lot of VIP flights. And especially when it was flooding, Caltrans and other state agencies, OEA, Office of Emergency Services, they needed to go out and survey the situation, so we did a lot of those types of missions also. One of our trainings, we took our Hueys up to Fallon Naval Air Station and did missile avoidance training up there at Nap of the Earth, NOE, just above grass level, but that was fun training too. Got a lot of flying in up there at Fallon. Just the great thing about National Guard in California, there's all kinds of missions, things that you get to do with the Guard that you'd never be able to do. Probably the closest thing would be doing search and rescue at the county level.
Do you have a favorite aircraft out of your time in service, or things that you might have flown in and why would that be your favorite?
I love flying in the front seat of the Cobra just because the view is so good. You just feel like you're right out on the very nose, the tip of the aircraft. You can see everything that's going on, and I did get some stick time. It's a little different because the controls are on the side, not the cyclic is not between your leg like it is on the Huey and the back seat of the Cobra, but that was good. But my very favorite aircraft will always be the Huey. And especially for National Guard units, it's a lot easier to maintain than the Blackhawks. Blackhawk's a great aircraft, being twin engine. All the Army Hueys were single engine. Well, when you're doing search and rescue missions in the mountains or over water anywhere, it's nice to have two engines versus one. And that's why the Navy and the Air Force fly with two engine Hueys. Marine Corps has a twin engine Cobra whiskey model. So, but always love the Huey. It's great for maintenance. I love doing door gunning, both with the Huey and the Blackhawk. We would go over to Fort Hunter Leggett and do our door gunner training every year. I just got to qualify twice a year with our personal weapons, either the 45, the 9mm pistols, or with the M16. Later on, the 240 Bravo and the M249 SAW, squad automatic weapon. So there again, it's just great training, great thing to be involved in that you normally would never be able to do on the civilian side. I also, when we deployed to Kuwait, my position was a transportation NCO, so I ended up going over to Fort Hunter Leggett to get the truck driver MOS, military occupational specialty, in order to have that management position, which was great training also in the mountains, driving trucks up and down mountain ranges and learning to do that. I ended up, and then I went to supply school in Montana because I became the first sergeant, and that was a supply MOS. So I ended up with 5 MOSs over the course of the 30 years.
And retired a first sergeant.
And retired as a first sergeant for the unit in Roseville, the area support group.
Well, an impressive career, and thank you for your service and your time here today.
Thank you.